Hi, and welcome to TTELT, Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers, a program of educators worldwide. I'm your host today, Melanie Gobert.
Hello, everyone. This is Melanie Gobert, your host on today's TTELT podcast, Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers, a program of educators worldwide. Joining us today is Arpine Harutyunyan from the American University of Armenia and Yerevan Brusov State University, and founder of Luys Zvart Education Center. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you too. It's nice to meet you.
Your topic is combining language and content for tour guides. So can you start telling us about that project?
Yeah, the project was implemented at the Brusov State University because we had a need for training tour guides. Basically, the courses that were offered to Armenian tour guides were in Armenian language. However, as we know, English is a lingua franca, and especially in the area of tourism, they need English for daily communication with tourists. So there was a demand of being able to combine the content related to the area and the language. So I came up with the idea of using the CLIL or CBI approach, content-based instruction, or as it is usually called in Europe, content and language integrated learning. And this gave us an opportunity to be able to teach both language and the content at the same time. Thus, the language became a means of introducing the topic, different topics that we had. And language was learned implicitly. And as it turned out, it was quite effective. And besides that, the students were really motivated. They liked the course very much. So that was a success story that I wanted to share. Yeah, basically.
Can you give us some specific examples of topics that you included in the syllabus and your approach for teaching them?
Well, the topics, it's a wide area of topics because tour guides need to, first of all, possess the skills for guiding tours, how to prepare for a tour, how to start, and like to lead the tour and how to finish it. Besides that, they need to also possess knowledge on the content, that is religion, architecture, history, and many other aspects of the country for being able to present it. So, and besides that, as I mentioned, the language. So how I made the course, I divided into, first of all, each unit was divided into two sections, section A, section B. And the course book consisted of 11 levels, 11 units. In each unit, section A taught them the basic guiding skills, also gave some content knowledge. In section B, we practiced language, again with content. Besides that, it was supposed to be a very practical course because you know that guiding is too practical, right? So that's why we had also a lot of hands-on activities, like they had mock tours. We also had some field trips because according to the research, field trips were one of the most effective ways for developing the guiding skills and the language skills. It had a variety of different tasks and assignments that students were supposed to. First of all, they had to study the theory based on like the theory on guiding, also theory related to the country, and the next step was the hands-on activities that they were supposed to implement and show the skills they had acquired.
Okay, the course sounds extremely practical, field trips, etc., role plays. But how did you integrate technology into the course?
Technology. That was another part, though for students it was a bit challenging because we decided to use Moodle for that, for their assignments, and Moodle was something new for them. So we had to organize some trainings before we started. After that, we integrated some technology. Or how did we do that? We had to use camera. Because it helped them also later to kind of assess their own guiding, how they were behaving, like the gestures, the verbal, non-verbal communication that like they were using. And besides that, generally, like a lot of technology was not necessary. Besides Moodle and using the camera, students know how to use the camera today, so not a lot to teach there. We could overcome the problem of the challenge of using Moodle by trainings. This was like generally what we did.
Okay, now a theoretical question for you. Because as you were describing that it's content and language integrated learning, I think in the old days, this would have been called English for specific purposes. So how would you differentiate those two in your context?
Yeah, English for specific purposes to me is a bit narrower. As like in that case, you teach generally the terms related to the area. However, in case of content-based instruction or CLE, which I liked more, is that it's not that you only teach vocabulary, you also teach communication skills and pragmatics, because there are many situations that the guides may come up with, and they need to be able to kind of communicate with their tourists, try to be helpful, and for that they don't only need ESP, they also need a lot of other skills, content-based instruction approach was like a much better solution for this.
Okay, and what were the learning outcomes of the course? How did you evaluate the people that took the course?
Yeah, the outcomes. The assessment, do you mean the assessment tools that? Yes. Yeah. First of all, they had a quiz, 2 quizzes per term, which evaluated their ESP vocabulary and also some language communication skills. They were given situations which they were supposed kind of to present, or how they would turn to the tourist and what language they would use. Then besides that, they also had role plays, right? And for role plays, they had certain rubrics, and they were graded according to the rubrics. The rubrics were also useful for field trips and mock tours. Besides that, they had a questionnaire, which was, of course, not assessed, to understand their motivation, if they liked the course or not, and how effective they thought it was. Also, it gave information to understand what changes we had to make in the course.
Okay, now just a very general question. Where do most of the tourists who visit Armenia come from?
Today we have tourists from many countries. Now we have tourists from Japan, China, Iran, Poland, other European countries like Germany, Italy, England. We have Americans, and besides that, today we have a lot of Russians and Ukrainians because of the war.
Okay, it sounds like a really exciting course to have developed and designed. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you too. It was a pleasure.
This has been your host, Melanie Gobert, for today's episode of TTELT, Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers, a program of educators worldwide. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for joining us today. Share with us how you are using these tips. Leave us a comment or voice message on social media or at ttelt.org. Thanks for joining this episode of TTELT, brought to you by educators worldwide. Follow, like, and subscribe to TTELT on your social media, and try a new teaching tip today.